Ho, 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 and welcome to Odds Premier League Matchday 18, Christmas one with Uncle Tom Rennie giving us really good tips with good money, as you did, Tom, in the previous weekend, the ACCA safe bet and so many bets. How are you, Tom?
I'm doing very well, mainly because all of my successful bets from the last match round have bought all my Christmas presents. So, feeling good about things, frankly.
Okay, good to save money in this time of the year, and also good to enjoy some Premier League games. We keep this Premier League title race, perhaps a three-horse race together with Aston Villa. We will see. But let me know, of course, what you think in the comments. Press the like, subscribe. Let's enjoy the Premier League. Let's go on with the show. Well, this used to be a very special match day, Boxing Day match day, but in this case, only one game on Boxing Day on Friday while you go shopping. If you are in the UK or you are still hungover, who knows, depending on where you are in the world, you can enjoy a really good game at Old Trafford. Man United, Newcastle. Man United always disappointing us, is a nightmare betting on their games. They lost to Aston Villa. They drew, remember, with Bournemouth before that 4-4, and they are falling from the European spots. They are not getting there yet, and especially at home, they've been very bad. No wins in the last 3 home games against easy rivals, Bournemouth, West Ham, Everton. And I guess, Tom, if you are playing Newcastle at your home, also you expect them to win, since Newcastle away have been so poor, but you never know with this Man United.
Yeah, it's a horrible game to bet on, this one. And we'll find some winners for you in here. But I think Man United they're very tough to predict, because you think they've turned the corner in the second half performance against Crystal Palace, and then they throw in elements of the game against Everton, elements of the game against Bournemouth. They're pretty poor performance, I thought, overall against Aston Villa this weekend, despite, going toe-to-toe with one of the form teams of the country. They didn't play particularly well. And you add that now to really significant injuries. Bruno Fernandes coming off at, half-time in that game. It is really significant. We're hearing it might be a month out for Bruno Fernandes, who is their only world-class player. You add that to Amad away at AFCON. You add that to 𝗵𝗲𝗼 away at AFCON. You add that to ongoing injuries to de Ligt and Maguire and one or two others. Weirdly, despite their gargantuan spend over the years, Man U are down to bare bones going into this game. Aiden Heavens playing every week, and there are players the boss clearly does not like playing regularly, the likes of Manuel Ugarte and even 𝗵𝗲𝗼, if fit, is getting some minutes, which is not something that I think Amorim particularly wants to do. So you've got all those problems there. And also you have this poor home form as well. So it looks like Newcastle win on paper, but then you look at the Newcastle United away form and you're a bit like, do we have the confidence? Would I have the confidence right now? I'm betting on a Newcastle side to win away from home with 1 away win all season, 4 defeats and 3 draws, and some pretty awful performances on the road as well. Sunderland, Brentford, West Ham, loads of times this season where they've been pretty weak. I will say I worked in the Chelsea game at the weekend, and I thought their intensity was incredible for 30 minutes. And then for the rest of the game, they flagged and flagged and flagged. They cannot keep up with the intensity that Eddie Howe wants. And they don't have the players to sort of replace the midfield to keep it up. Interested that Joe Linton didn't come on at all at the game at the weekend. I thought he might certainly last 20, so maybe he's carrying something. Maybe the confidence in him is totally gone. I don't know. So, look, I think that on paper, with the strongest possible teams available, with Bruno Fernandes fit, I would probably just shade for Manchester United here. But with the amount of injuries they have and the inconsistency at home for Manchester United to go with the away issues that Newcastle have had, game absolutely screams draw at 3.78. United have drawn against West Ham and Bournemouth in their last 2 home games. So I expect it to be similar here. Draw and both teams to score also stands out. 1-1 draw stands out. If you are going to pick a winner, I would go for Newcastle because they have goal threat. I'm not seeing it with United, especially without Fernandes, especially without 𝗵𝗲𝗼. And to see them at 2.9, I know the away form has been bad, but they're not a bad team, Newcastle. And if they get it right, they score a couple of goals in the opening half an hour, United are not going to get back into this game. Double chance, not amazing. Newcastle and draw at 1.57. But if you're feeling really conservative, you can look at that. And as ever, I try and pick a player out if I can. Nick 𝗀𝗏𝗏, 2 goals against Chelsea at the weekend. Should have got more. He will get more this season. Anytime for him, 2.75.
Very close indeed to get a hat-trick. Only one away win for Newcastle, but I think also it's important for Newcastle to rest this week. They don't have midweek games, and they need actually to have some break. I think Newcastle will bully United 23 Italy. Newcastle to win and under 3.5 goals. So also the vibe is going towards Newcastle. Next one is Nottingham Forest. Man City, great run of form for Man City. Now is 7 consecutive wins, keeping clean sheets. Now adding Reinders to the goal scorers, with Haaland, of course, in great form. And they have 2 games now, Nottingham and Sunderland away, and to keep this good streak and put some pressure on Arsenal, with Forest last games with no both teams to score. Actually, the last one, Man City to win, of course, we should look at it, is 1.6.
Yeah, look, I think it's a really, really interesting game, this. And I think that Nottingham Forest have had a resurgence under Sean Dyche. Look, the squad was better than maybe any other squad he sort of walked into mid-season, Sean Dyche. So he was quite fortunate in that regard to walk into a pretty set setup. But he's made the best of it. And the win over Tottenham was one of the most impressive wins any team have had this season. Last time I watched one of their games in full. I think it is concerning for them that 𝗵𝗻𝗄 Sangare is away at AFCON, I guess. With Ryan Yates injured, I'm not quite sure what the midfield makeup will be, frankly, going into this game. Elliot Anderson and another. And that's a big loss, because that's been a great base of midfield for Forest in this resurgence, as it was for much of last season. I think Hudson-Odoi's performance against Spurs was really good, but he is a 1 in 4, 1 in 5 player. We need some consistency from him for Forest to keep climbing the table, which I think they will do. I think they're nowhere near relegation. There's no chance West Ham are going to catch them now. So I think that I think there's every chance of a Forest win here. Defensive solidity, not conceding too many goals, certainly at home games. So I don't know. I think they're a really tough opponent here. And if they play like they did against Tottenham, they could beat absolutely anybody. Man City, I was so close here to doing Man City win to 0, the Arsenal bet. I was so close. But West Ham should have scored at least 1 at the weekend. Palace should have scored a couple of goals before City scored the opening goal in their game at Selhurst. So defensively, I still think you can get at Man City. I do think Forest will be able to score a goal here. What do you take from the West Ham game? Not really very much, because West Ham are so rubbish. And again, Nuno just did like team selection roulette and who's playing where. And I think they would have planned for 5 at the back, and suddenly it's 4 at the back. There's openings everywhere. But look, 𝗀𝗏𝗏's playing fantastically well. Haaland scored the opening goal in like 10 of 17 games this season. So that's a bet we'll put on again today. Foden was quiet against West Ham, but has been broadly very good across the last 5 or 6 games. And I think that defensively, I would still be looking for a right back for City to replace Matheus Nunes in a lot of games. But beyond that, reasonably solid against the poor teams, and up for the physical battle. Nico Gonzalez has been playing really, really well. When Rodri comes back, I do think those two in tandem are going to potentially be a difference maker for Man City should they win the league this season, which I'm edging towards as these games go on. But you've got to win a game like this, and I think they will. Man City win is 1.64. Not amazing. Throw it in your 𝗍𝗏𝗏, but it's not great. I was so close, as I say, to doing win to 0. So I'm not discounting that if you fancy it. They won the last 3 games 2-0 and scored at least 2 goals, 3 in 2 of them in those matches. So don't discount it. But I think Forest will nick a goal, and it's double your money. So City win and both teams to score is 3. I'm on the fence. So do have a look at win to 0. But as ever, it's a Man City game. Haaland anytime is 1.62. Haaland first goal, 3.25. And as I say, he has scored the first goal. I had it earlier on. It's like 10 of 17 or something like that this season. Here we go. Erling Haaland's put City 1-0 ahead in 10 of 17 Premier League games this season. So it's always worth having him first goal, but it's double your money.
Well, 19 goals so far in the Premier League. Erling Haaland, our smart bet tool, is going for goals in this game, over 3.5 or over 2.5. Over 3.5 is 2.65. Keep it simple. Both teams to score. For a Pathfinder also, 𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗏 sees City winning with both teams to score. Then next game is Arsenal Brighton, key win for Arsenal to stay in the top of the table, beating Everton. 𝐿𝐿 scoring. We were mentioning how he's not adapting so well to Arsenal, but of course it was from the penalty spot, but he gave Arsenal the 3 points at home. Arsenal almost perfect, 7 wins and 1 draw. This season, Brighton, Tom, arriving in poor form, only 2 points in the last 4 games.
Yeah, look, with Arsenal, another game. It went exactly as we predicted. My bets are going to pretty much be the same every week for Arsenal because they're so unwatchable. They're not daring, but they're very solid. They always find a way to win. And when they've nicked a goal, they're very, very difficult to then come back against because their defense is so well organized. In the absence of Gabriel, other players have stepped in really well. They bought so well in the summer, bringing in someone like 𝐿𝐴 to give them depth. If they lose 2 centre-halves or 3 centre-halves, if you throw in Ben White in there, they have the cover to get through. All their fullbacks can also play centre-half, more or less. 𝐿𝐴 can do it, White we've mentioned. So they've got really great strength and depth across the back line to cover for injuries. They're almost allowing players to rotate. It's 𝐬𝐴𝐧𝐧𝐞𝐿, it's Ødegaard, it's Rice, it's 𝗵𝗵𝗫𝗍𝗫. Players are getting a rest in games, which wasn't happening last season. And even in the absence of a real top goal scorer, they don't have one right now. 𝐬𝐭𝐴 playing a few games, Marino playing a few games. They're able to share the load. Gabriel Jesus is coming back to fitness. He'll get some minutes now. Kai Havertz soon to be in the squad again. So look, managing it perfectly, utterly unwatchable. I expect them to win here. I'm not going to watch it, so let me know afterwards. In terms of Brighton, look, they're still a team that I think will cause damage this season. They're a team at some point who will go on a run this season, but at the moment, they're on the other side of that because Danny Welbeck has stopped scoring, which was such a pivotal part of what was happening to them at the start of the season. Jorginho Rutter, I think, he scored 1 goal this season. That was the late equaliser, which shouldn't have stood against West Ham. 𝗵𝗵𝗫𝗫 has been struggling with injury, and so the midfield has changed a lot. It's 𝗵𝗫𝗫𝗫, it's Ayari, it's other guys that are in the team. And even defensively, they had to make some changes recently as well with 1 or 2 knocks and problems and suspensions. So, look, I think Fabian Hürzeler is... They're normally very solid. Beyond the Villa game, they don't concede too many goals. They don't concede too many chances. And if they score the first goal in a game, a bit like sort of Forest of last season, they're a real tough team to break down. The trouble is they have not been scoring the first goal, and chasing the game is not something Brighton are particularly good at. As we saw against West Ham a couple of weeks ago, it took until the 89th minute for them to have a shot on target against a really poor team. And even then, the goal should not have stood. So Brighton will go on a run, but it won't start here. Arsenal win 1.47. Obviously, Arsenal win to 0, 2.38. Obviously, Arsenal to win by exactly 1 goal, which again keeps on coming in and is often better odds than Arsenal win to 0, 3.75. 1-0, 2-1. That's about it. It'll be very similar to Everton and Wolves. Again, enjoy it, everyone. I won't be watching.
Trademark win 2-0 for 𝐿𝐴. Arsenal will surely drop points playing like this at some point. Indeed, 𝗵𝗵𝗫𝗫𝗫, they actually drop points recently, and they will keep dropping points if they don't improve. Next one is Brentford, Bournemouth. We have now Brentford on top of Bournemouth in the table because perhaps we should start talking about Bournemouth being in the relegation battle, winless in 8, and I guess we expect another game winless for Bournemouth since Brentford are so strong at home. Tom, key win against Wolves, and they are 5th in the home standings.
Yeah, just worth noting, there's no need to worry about Bournemouth because West Ham and Burnley are so dreadful. So there really isn't. In other seasons, we kind of thought this season might be a big relegation battle. In another campaign, maybe. But I just don't see either of those 2 teams getting 30 points, and that leaves you pretty comfortable if you're Bournemouth, luckily for them. Look, let's start with Brentford. I think that they are such a basic team in so many ways, but they do the basics really well, and that's really important. That wins you home games. They have a ferocity about the way they play at home, which has bowled over a lot of teams, and 5 wins in 8 is incredibly impressive. 1 defeat all season is maybe more impressive than the win factor. Defensively, incredibly well organised. The midfield, well marshalled by Jordan Henderson. It's been the year of the senior midfielder organising the play, maybe because there's been so much set-piece football this season. But Henderson over the top to 𝗏𝗏 or Igor Thiago, but a constant threat. It was the story to Lewis Potter against Wolves. Look, Wolves are awful, but Brentford had to break them down. They did with a ball over the top, spun in behind. Lewis Potter scores. That's the end of that game. They still have the 𝐿𝐭𝐴 long throw. They still get physical. They still create chances. And at home, always bet on someone in the kind of form they are in. In terms of Bournemouth, kind of fascinating, really. Like, should have beaten Man United, drew. Should have beaten West Ham, drew. Should have beaten Burnley, drew. Should have drawn against Everton, lost it. Should have got something against Sunderland, lost it. It's tough to put your finger on. Beyond the fact that Andoni Iraola always goes for it, and it leaves space in behind. You're asking Lewis Cook, who played sort of midfield against Burnley behind Tavernier and Kluivert in the absence of Scott and Tyler Adams. And you can't do it. He just could not do it. They were overrun by the Burnley midfield at times, which is surprising to see when Burnley started counter-attacking. It was a flat game. It was a poor game. And beyond a moment of brilliant solo quality from 𝐬𝐭𝐴, Bournemouth offered very little going forward. They struggled defensively. I think 𝐶𝐸 had a good game. Beyond that, the back line struggled. And Burnley were well worth their point there. So on current form, the way it's going, you can only bet on one thing here. That's the Brentford win at 2.35. I don't think it'll be a thriller. I'm looking at something similar to 2-0 Wolves against Brentford. I think it'll be quite similar here. So Brentford under 3.5 is 3.25. Struggling to see more than one Bournemouth goal. 2-1 Brentford is a scoreline I quite like here. Don't discount the draw, which this morning was at 3.4. I think it's gone up a little bit since then, 3.74. And if you're going to go for a Brentford win because the odds are a little bit ropey, look for a group bet. 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, 4.5, 2-1, 3-1, 4-1. Not going to be 4-1. 3-1 or 2-1 is likely similar odds as well. But a Brentford win, and they will score at least one, maybe two.
Okay, 𝐿𝐭𝐴𝐧𝐧𝐞𝐜 is throwing some individual markets. 𝐷𝗲𝗏𝗏, and 𝐸𝐭𝐴, for instance, to score second and third top scorer this season in the Premier League. 11 goals for the Brentford striker, 8 for the Bournemouth one. Keane is going for a surprise here. Bournemouth upset win in 𝐸𝐴's farewell. All right. Well, next game is Burnley Everton. Of course, here we should look at Everton to win 2.03, losing the last two games against Arsenal and Chelsea without scoring. Burnley getting a point finally against Bournemouth. The end of a terrible streak of 7 consecutive defeats.
Yeah, look, Burnley aren't good enough to be in the Premier League. I don't know how many times I've got to say it to you. They just don't have the quality. They've got one or two good players. I like 𝐿𝐿𝐴𝐺𝐿𝐿𝐻𝐿. I think he'll probably get a Premier League move next season. I think one or two others are all right. Broja might get a loan back to the bottom half of the Premier League. Jadon Anthony maybe. But beyond that, they just have not built a Premier League caliber squad. The goalkeeper's not good enough. The defence are not good enough. The midfielder are a bit lightweight and don't get around enough. And the strikers don't score enough. So it's not a great cocktail of things. But they're still in with a potential shout of staying in the league. It would require Leeds to start losing. But do I think Burnley can get above Leeds? No. Do I think they get above Forest? No. And so we are where we are. It's going to be managing it to a respectable points tally until the end. I don't discount them scoring a goal here because they have found ways to score goals from Fleming, and even Sonner recently has scored. 𝐿𝐿𝐴𝐺𝐿, I mentioned, a great first half against Fulham. But they will concede. And if they concede two, as they conceded soft goals against Fulham, they will go on to lose this match. In terms of Everton, yeah, you're right to highlight the last two games, Chelsea and Arsenal. But look, tough games for anybody to play. David Moyes plays these matches very conservatively, plays the percentages, and it doesn't always come off for them. But then sometimes it does. Look at the Man United game a few weeks ago now. So look, I think this will be quite a tight and taut game. And I think that it's all about whether the Everton trio behind the striker can impress without Kieran Dewsbury-Hall, who I think has been their most impressive player this season. Dwight McNeil and Carlos Alcaraz. I think that was something that frustrated Everton fans at the weekend. Seeing that group together felt a little bit Dychian as opposed to Moyesian. Dewsbury-Hall remains out until mid-January. That's really significant. I think he's been their best player this season. But you've still got Grealish, and 𝗀𝗏 is away, so that means McNeil have to play. But I think he's a good player. And, of course, going back to his former club, these guys always put a bit of a show on. So I would follow the Burnley form and not the Everton form in this game. When Everton win, they tend to win to 0, but when Burnley lose, it tends to be both teams score. So I expect Everton to race into a lead here, bit like Fulham, maybe 1, maybe 2. Burnley get one back. Look at the Fulham game, look at the West Ham game, look at the Newcastle game, look at the Brentford game. That's the pattern of Burnley games. Follow that here. Everton 2-0-3. Everton both teams to score 4.33. 2-1, 3-2. plenty of goals. Everton win it.
All right. Well, 𝐿𝐵𝐴𝐵𝐴 Everton to win under 3.5 goals. Idris is a pass for me. Our smart bet tool is going for the double chance, actually, for Burnley for a surprise. 1.89. Hi.
Oh, here we go. You all right?
Sorry.
Are you allergic to making money?
Sorry.
Eh?
No, I cannot be allergic to that. Let's go to Anfield, Tom. Liverpool Wolves, really hard to make money actually with this game. Perhaps seeing individual markets, 𝐿𝐿𝐴𝐵𝐿𝐴, one of the few good news this season for Liverpool, scored again at the weekend, 8 goals in the Premier League, not bad, and a key win also for Liverpool against Spurs, now closer to the Champions League spots. Good news, 3 consecutive wins in all competitions, no defeats since the one against PSV, so in 6 games, and should be 7, of course. Nothing to say about Wolves, Tom.
Yeah, let me just start with the Wolves line and then we'll just move on. Wolves have the joint fewest points ever by a side in their first 17 matches of a season in English League history, alongside Newport County in the 4th tier in 1970 and Sheffield United in the Premier League back in 2020. 2 points. Just pitiful in every regard. And it's got to the point now where it's not just the fact the players are poor, it's the fact that misery is set in. I mean, if you saw 𝐿_𝐴𝐵𝐿𝐴, who was apparently a £60 million striker in the summer, miss a penalty, he got saved, and then he got booed off the pitch by the home crowd. They don't want to see any of these guys anymore. Can't believe Rob Edwards has walked into this. And even if they go on a resurgent run, they aren't going to get 20 points this season. Well, let's cap it at 20 points. And that's if things turn around and they start winning every now and then. There's nothing here. And I just think that I don't know how you manage this, but if I was a Wolves fan, and I've been through something similar, not as bad as this as a supporter, just stop going. Take 6 months off, look after yourself, go do something else the weekend, get into the rugby, go watch some La Liga or something. We've got some great people here that predict La Liga. Do that instead, because it ain't worth it. Just take some time off. In terms of Liverpool, I was quite impressed, actually, by the performance of Tottenham. I know they were against 10 men for a long time, but I think there was a solidity to it. There was an organisation to it that's not quite been there. I think that... I don't know how injured or otherwise Conor Bradley is going into this one, but if he is, they'll pop someone else at right back, maybe Robertson if he's fit over on that side, as we thought might happen last week. But of course, Bradley came back from suspension. But beyond that, Florian Wirtz and at the time, 𝐿𝐴𝐵𝐿𝐴 had some good link-up play. I thought 𝗵𝗵𝗶𝐻 and Szoboszlai were a brilliant hard-working midfield. They are just about protecting the deficiencies of Ibrahima Konaté right now. But look, what does it matter? They're playing against a Wolves team here that I don't think could win if they played 13 players. So Liverpool win at 1.26 is not great. I think it all depends on how much of a mood Liverpool get in the opening 20 minutes. If they can score a couple, they could go on to win convincingly. 1-0, 2-0, or 3-0 group bet, a pretty generous 2.75 considering the opponent they are facing. -2, first reasonable handicap at -2 is 2.5. I think you got 𝐿𝐴𝐵𝐿𝐴. I think you got Florian Wirtz. I could go on about all the attacking talents they've got, but the only way to make money is go on big Liverpool win. So if you're betting on this one, go big Liverpool win. Look at 𝐿𝐴𝐵𝐿𝐴 anytime and Liverpool win by at least 2 goals. And there's some money to be made here. They're going to win this.
-2 is nice, actually, for Liverpool. Wirtz to score, David is telling us this is the game. Or 𝐿𝐴𝐵𝐿𝐴, for instance. 𝐿𝐴𝐵𝐿𝐴 is flagging the Frenchman. Then we have West Ham Fulham, massive game for the Hammers, now 6 points away from Leeds. They have some fixtures now during the Christmas period that they should win if they want to stay in the Premier League. It's only 3 points in the last 6 games for West Ham. And Fulham, remember, got a key win against Burnley to stay reasonable far from the bottom 3, but they are 7 points away from West Ham. So massive game, this one, Tom, especially for West Ham. I read on Twitter that you are not optimistic at all.
No, I'm done with West Ham now. I think that the changes happen. I think Leeds have shown great fight to be in the Premier League. West Ham don't seem bothered. So I think they'll go down this year. The gap is getting silly now. I think the performance against Villa was fine to a degree, but went on to lose the game quite poorly. I thought the way they played against Man City was, look, they were always going to lose against Man City, but there's ways to lose, and that was give up on a rival, which makes me very angry. Not been able to see the Brighton result, not been able to get something at Man United beyond the draw. the pitiful way they played against Liverpool. I mean, all of it. Nuno should not have taken this job. Nuno needed clearly a holiday after Nottingham Forest. He's not had his staff with him, and his team selections are like throwing spaghetti at the wall. I don't know what they're going to play here. 4 at the back, 3 at the back. Who's up front? Does the striker play? Who's in midfield? Where's Paqueta playing? I don't know. It's been 4 months. He has no idea what he's got here. The only thing I have in the positive column for Nuno is just the January transfer window's coming up. Maybe he can buy the couple of players they need to start playing whatever football he wants to play, because I don't know. He looks massively confused. I would say he's been close to moronic so far. He was handed a very poor hand, but, I mean, you can still play a poor hand well. He's played it very poorly. 𝐿𝐴 coming back in, I'm here as a joke of a footballer, pathetic. I actually think me on one leg after a load of tequila is better than Max 𝐿𝐴, and yet suddenly he's playing, marking Erling Haaland. Good luck with that. And even to the point where, like, they've lost 𝗀𝗵bissaka and Diouf to AFCON. Fine, fair enough. But there's no injuries at West Ham. Everyone's fit. This is the squad. They've got everyone they wanted, and, like, nothing. Don't know how they're going to play. Not a clue. Is he going to play Wilson? I'd play Wilson, but I couldn't tell you right now with confidence he will play Wilson in this game. Don't know. Beyond Jarrod Bowen, no one comes out of the season with any credit at all. Freddie Potts maybe, but I thought he was poor at City. I don't know. Useless. Terrible team. I think in terms of Fulham, to lose Samuel 𝐿𝐴, 𝗀𝗵𝗿𝗲 and 𝗵𝗵𝗏 at the same time to AFCON is a blow. You know, 𝐿𝐴's finally hit some form for them since coming in. I think 𝗵𝗏𝗏, though he's been a bit inconsistent this season, has looked better than the possible replacements they have. I think it's 𝗀𝐿𝐴 and maybe Diop or something like that, but not amazing defensive options for Fulham. And I think 𝗀𝗵𝗿 dropping slightly deeper alongside Sander Berge made them a bit more creative. It's going to be 𝗀𝐿𝐴 and Berge, I'd suggest, if 𝗀𝐿𝐴 is fit. But look, I would not bet on West Ham with your money, right? So look at the draw at 3.5. I wouldn't be surprised if Fulham score the opening goal, West Ham get a leveler, and it peters out to a 1-1 draw, which would not be good enough for West Ham. Fulham and draw as a double chance is 1.5. If you're picking a winner, go for Fulham here. If you want to make it spicy, look at Fulham and both teams to score. West Ham's defensive record is a joke. 3 against City, 3 against Villa, late goal against Brighton. Look, to be fair, shouldn't have stood. Soft goal against Man United, 2 against Liverpool. Defense is crap, goalkeeper's crap, midfield is crap, manager's crap, stadium's crap. So go for the Fulham win. Make some money. Awful team.
Well, some Christmas spirit on you, Tom. I can see going to the London Stadium next Saturday. We have a couple of people hoping for West Ham to win and both teams to score. Actually, David...
Not with my money, mate. Not with my money.
David, I don't think he's happy seeing 𝗀𝗏𝗏 going to Milan. I didn't know he was going to
Nicholas 𝗀𝗏𝗏 is the
Milan.
worst striker I've ever seen in my entire life. A fat loser, and I'm glad he's gone, if you're asking.
Even worse than 𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗀. Huh?
Yes, 𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗏 would have been... at least 𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗏
Poor
tried.
𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗏 is the injuries.
At least 𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗏 tried. He got a horrible injury. He would have scored 10, 12 goals that season, but got injured and wanted to go home. Fair enough.
Is the injuries. Well, draw also possible. Let's see, because
who raised 𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗏? Who said 𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗏? Don't put me in a bad mood. It's Christmas here. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, sorry, David. It was David, not me. And the best game we have this weekend is Chelsea-Aston Villa. Of course, 3rd against the 4th. Aston Villa club record, 10 consecutive wins, beating Man United. Rodgers scoring, everything as you predicted in that game. What a run for Unai Emery's men. Perhaps they are the 3rd horse in the title race. Who knows? It's not going to be Chelsea for sure, because now they are 10 points away from Arsenal. Is only 1 win in the last 5 Premier League games, Tom. Even if Reece James scored a beautiful free kick, by the way.
Can't get a handle on Chelsea. I really can't. I thought in that first half an hour against Newcastle could have been 5 or 6 up. Some brilliant saves from Robert Sanchez kept them in the game. They should have given away a penalty. I can't understand why 𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗏 assaulting a player in the penalty area is not a penalty, but there we are. But they did a brilliant comeback. Like, the comeback was great. The James free kick was superb. It was caused by Cole Palmer doing a kind of trademark turn and push forward. It was a great free kick. And João Pedro's brilliant solo goal. That's an excellent striker's goal. That's magnificent for a centre forward, a battering ram forward. He beats Malik Chow to a brilliant release from Sanchez and then runs down and beats the goalkeeper. When Newcastle were a bit naive in the way they set up at 2-0 up, yeah, probably. But Chelsea capitalised on it and deserved to get something, if not win the game in the end. So very tough to predict. I think that Reece James, if he's able to play, considering it's, a week turnaround, hopefully he can. Him, 𝐻𝐨𝐳 in midfield makes a lot of sense. I think they rested Enzo Fernandez, looked a better team when Enzo came on, which made a massive difference to Chelsea. If it were me, I'd push Palmer left and bring Enzo in for a 𝐻𝐨𝐳, James, and Enzo trio. Then you've got Palmer on the field as well. 𝐻𝐿𝐴𝐻 missed so many opportunities to do something against Newcastle. If Palmer was left and not 𝐻𝐿ACCHO, I think Chelsea win that game quite comfortably second half at the weekend. So he'll come back in, and I think they'll be creative going forward. But defensively, lots of concerns. 𝐶halobah, Gusto, Fofana, 𝐶𝐭∞ all had stinkers, I thought, at St James's. But of course, there's no one really to come in to replace them. So play that unit again, get them better. That's where the concern would lie for me. But in the end, it's irrelevant, right? Because Chelsea could be the best team. Chelsea could have the most chances. And they could win the game on XG by 7-1. And then the game will finish 1-0 to Aston Villa and Morgan Rogers will score. They just keep on doing it. And it was another one at the weekend where it was a more even match. I think XG had it at like 1-1 or 1.5 or something like that, but essentially 1-1. But when you've got someone in the form of Morgan Rogers right now, just get that guy the ball on the left-hand side, get him to cut in and try and stop him if you can. And nobody can. 2 against United, 2 against West Ham. Obviously go for him to score any time here, maybe even first goal. If Pau Torres is fit, I'd probably bring in for Victor Lindelof. Beyond that, as you were for Aston Villa, very solid, very little change, high on confidence, not creating many chances, but when they do create them, they tend to take them. And with the inconsistency at Chelsea and the consistency at Villa, how could you not look at a Villa win at 4.21? They've won 10 in a row. They've won 10 games in a row. You can't have odds like this when a team have won 10 in a row. I'm sorry, I know Chelsea are a big team. Lots of people are going to lump on Chelsea for obvious reasons. And I don't discount the prospect of a Chelsea win. But when a team has won 10 in a row, keep betting on them until they lose. If you'd have done that for 8 weeks, you'd have made some serious money on Villa. So Villa win, 4.21. Villa win both teams to score, which has been a very safe bet in recent weeks. It keeps on happening here. The West Ham game, the Man United game, on and on and on. Brighton, Arsenal. Last win to nil was Wolves 4 games ago. 6.5 for Villa and both teams to score. I'm just baffled by that. That's such good odds for a result that keeps on coming in. And Rodgers anytime at 4.5. Really good odds as well. The bookies don't think this will continue, but they haven't thought it for 10 weeks. First goal, Morgan Rogers, the informed player in the Premier League right now with 4 goals in 2 games, is 12. Yeah, I mean, punt it, take it, stick a tenner on it. You'll make some money here, I think, because it may not come off, but the form suggests it. So can't believe these odds. You've got to go Villa here. And that's what I would do. I thought it was a good bet. You know what? If you don't think it was a good bet, that's fine. I thought it was a good bet, so I'm going to stick with it. So that's Chelsea Villa, right? It's the late game on Saturday. That wraps Saturday. We've got 2 games on Sunday, December 28th. And let's start with Sunderland, who are up against Leeds United. And I'm fascinated by this game. And when Edu comes back, he'll be fascinated as well. Because how are Sunderland going to cope without the AFCON players? It's Diarra, it's Traore, it's Talbi, it's Ronaldo, I think, would have played. A couple of others, Masuaku's not playing. But look, it's a huge amount of players to be gone at the same time for Sunderland. And there was maybe a little sense even before that the juice was no longer being squeezed out of this squad of players because they got the win against Newcastle, played well in terms of a derby, but did they play well if it wasn't a derby? Not really, didn't create anything against Newcastle of note, particularly the own goal separated it. Thrashed at Man City, not great against Liverpool, and I thought quite poor against Brighton. So you throw all that in together, I feel like it's a really interesting time for Sunderland. And I don't know quite what to predict from them. And I couldn't tell you right now what the team is going to be because half the bench that has been sort of sitting there waiting for its chance this season is now going to play. So I think a lot of the players that were there in the Championship for them might now get a few minutes. It's hard to tell. So I can't quite predict them at the moment. Overall, the home form has been very good. Granit Xhaka remains low-key best player in the Premier League this season. And if he is on a tear, as he has been, every chance they go on to win this game. But on the subject of being on a tear, Leeds United, what a run of form. Before the Man City game where they lost 3-2 and could have got a draw, there were stories about Daniel Farke, the manager. If he loses the next 2, he's going to get replaced. He's gone on to play really well and lose against Man City, beat Chelsea, draw against Liverpool, draw at Brentford, which is not easy to do, and then wallop Crystal Palace a couple of days ago. They are cruising to safety right now with the help of an utterly atrocious West Ham United. And if they can win a game like this, I would say it's almost assured they're going to go on to Premier League safety, because I just think the gap is going to get too big. If West Ham lose again the weekend, I know it's only one win away from home this season and 6 defeats, but if Sunderland are not on it, if Sunderland do not have their best team available to them, which they do not, and there's elements of the mix that aren't quite there, this Leeds in this form can go on to win. And Dominic Calvert-Lewin, 5 in 5 now, as we predicted last week, a player on a run, keep betting on him. That guy in between the posts, 6 yards out, one of the best in the league. The ball keeps coming to him. As Ancelotti once said to him, get between the posts, 6 yards out, we'll get you the ball and you'll score. He doesn't miss those chances. You might think that's not much of a compliment, but I think it is, because so many players are not there to take those chances. Get in the box and he will score. And so I think they're well worth backing here at 2.9. First pick draw for me at 3.4, only because of the overall form of both. But looking at the timing of this game, Leeds win at 2.9, well worth a punt. And with the former Dominic Calvert-Lewin, really surprised to see anytime goal scorer 3.5. Again, 5 in a row for Calvert-Lewin, including multiple goals in one of those games, is well worth it. First goal, 7.5. Look at the Leeds market here, I'd suggest.
Okay, Tom, and the last game we have 𝐿𝐿𝐴 saying draw here. Could be the draw game. And the last game we have in this Boxing Day match day is Crystal Palace Tottenham. Both teams falling in table. 8th, Crystal Palace lost to Leeds, lost to Man City. Even worse, Spurs also back-to-back defeats in the Premier League. Who should we back? I guess not Tottenham, that's for sure.
I think it's going to be very tight. I'd be looking at low scoring. That's what I'd be backing here. It's going to be a real tough game to predict. I think Palace a bit hard done by with the game in the Conference League on Thursday, away at Leeds on Saturday. That's a setup. And they're rightly miffed about it, because they should not have been playing. And they've got another game now, right? Just really unfair. They'll have another game in the Carabao Cup quarters in between as well. So they're really just giving this Crystal Palace squad punishment for having too many games. No help at all from UEFA or the Premier League. And I think that showed against Leeds. When Calvert-Lewin had put them 2 up, I think there was a flattening of Crystal Palace they couldn't recover from. Hughes and Wharton and everybody, even the back 3 suffered from just the sheer amount of workload. I know there's been a decent amount of change between the games, Conference League into that, but even the ones that weren't playing had to be there, didn't have the day off, didn't have their usual routine. And another game where they've got to travel up to Leeds when you could have maybe done with a home game on the Sunday. You know, it's been tough, real tough for Crystal Palace. But more broadly than that, I think there has been a tail-off in the form and a tail-off in performance. I think even the win at Fulham didn't play particularly well. I think losing Daniel Munoz is massive for Crystal Palace. He's so important for everything they do. So loads of concerns there, but equal concerns for Tottenham. It's hard to judge them considering that Xavi Simons and Romero got sent off, plus it was Liverpool at home. But the Nottingham Forest game was a joke performance. Even the win against Brentford, it was assured, but not a huge confidence builder upon reflection. And the draw against Newcastle before that, yeah, fine enough. But I think they're conceding too many goals. They're not creating enough goals. They desperately need, I'm going to say it, sorry, Spurs fans, a Harry Kane centre forward to pull the rest of these guys together. There's a whole bunch of decent little players, from Kudus to Simon, suspended here, Colin Moani, all these guys, Brennan Johnson, but they need a focal point to make them all work. The focal points they have are not working. Solanke hasn't played all season. There's some talk he might be back in the next couple of weeks, but who knows? Don't even know if he's a Thomas Frank player, frankly. We'll find out. I think he wants more of a Chris Wood sort of type than a Solanke running behind type. So don't quite know what the Spurs team is. Lots of changes to be made. Not been particularly impressive across the season. They don't score too many goals. Very functional midfield that isn't functioning well. Gray, Bentancur, 𝗀𝗏𝗀. They look a mess at the moment. Competitive, but there's no team being moulded currently by Thomas Frank in more ways than one. So look at the draw at 3.54. In terms of exact scores, I think under. 0-0 is 11. 1-1, 6.5. If you pick a winner, go Palace and under 3.5. For the first bet to make any money, that's 2.88. If you're feeling really bold, go Palace and under 2.5. That's basically a 1-0 win to Crystal Palace. But I think very low scoring, unwatchable, draw likely.
Okay, Mateta, anytime goal scorer, 2-1, correct score for 𝐿𝐿𝐴𝐵𝐵𝐴𝐵. This is the last game in match day 18 in the Premier League. Remember, guys, that you have the chance to win some money, not only with the bookies, but thanks to Oddspedia with our tipster competitions. There you go, the Premier League one with €1,000 as prize pool. And also we have Rivals, where you can create your own tipster competition and play with your friends. Let's go, Tom Rennie, with your safe bet.
Safe bet is going to be Liverpool to beat the worst team in living memory, Wolverhampton Wanderers, but to beat them, not great. So add the handicap of -1.5. Liverpool beat Wolves 1.62. Not bad.
Not bad. And the ACCA?
Simple treble this week. It came off last week, so why not do it again? Liverpool to beat Wolverhampton Wanderers, Arsenal to beat Brighton at home, and Brentford to pick up victory at home against Bournemouth comes in at a quite generous 3.7.
Okay, let's go for back-to-back ACCAs. Tom Rennie, thank you. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Merry Christmas. Enjoy your holidays. Bye-bye.